evening, you're watching Estuary TV News. Coming up, Pew Pew Barley McGrew, we look at the new fire support vehicle on the south bank of the Humber, and no more Snickers for our man Dave Nunn as he prepares to run a marathon. And I'll be talking to Dave as he tries to get in shape for that epic race. Welcome to Estuary TV News. I'm Hugh Richards. First of all, it's over to James Dunn for the news headlines.
Hello, in the headlines today, a hospice gets a visit from search and rescue and investment from a supermarket in Grimsby. First, one of our area's most iconic landmarks will now appear on stamps. The Humber Bridge, along with 9 other bridges, will be printed on first-class stamps, as well as on the side of Royal Mail vans in East Yorkshire and Lincolnshire. The bridge's stamp collection is aimed at celebrating the leaps in engineering that have seen the UK's bridges evolve from stone crossings to become amongst our most celebrated landmarks. A hospital ward in Grimsby has reopened after an outbreak of norovirus, the winter vomiting bug. Patients who have been suffering are advised to stay away from the hospital until they've been symptom-free for at least 24 hours. Patients at St Andrew's Hospice got a gift from above today as the search and rescue helicopter paid them a visit. It's the hospice's 14th birthday, and the Sea King flew from RAF Leconfield to members of the public and patients, many of whom are receiving end-of-life care. As well as a last chance for people at the hospice, it's a similar thing for the helicopter, which retires in just over a week's time.
Well, it's a dream come true for me. I've been waving at the yellow bird for more years than I care to remember, and it's all about the hospice, making every day count. So it's one of the last chances they're going to get to come and see the big yellow bird. So we asked them nicely 8 months ago, and they very kindly have agreed today. And it's our 14th birthday as well for the children's unit. So big birthday present.
Lidl has invested more money into a Grimsby store as the rapid rise of the supermarket chain continues. It's reopened after a refurbishment and is one of 2 stores in Grimsby alone. Meanwhile, bigger supermarkets have been suffering, and Tesco recently announced it wouldn't open its planned store in Immingham.
Customers, the comments on the price and the quality of the products, they're fed up with the big 4, charging whatever they like for people. So customers can come into our store, buy the same products, our own brand, but the same quality products of much greater value.
That's all from me. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.
Running a marathon is an epic task for anyone. Often it's super fit athletes looking for a new challenge, but sometimes it's other people like you or me, though not me. Reporter Dave Nunn is certainly not an athlete, as you can see. He'd be the first to admit he's not your quintessential marathon runner, but he's willing to take on the challenge. Here he is to tell us why, as he does his first outdoors run of the year.
When we first ran a story about the Hull Marathon, it didn't take long for my colleagues to start making quips about me giving it a go. But as it went from the odd jibe to more of a running joke, it got me thinking. The thing is, I know I'm unhealthy. I've eaten bacon sandwiches every day for nearly a year, and my only real hobby is PlayStation. And as people cracked more jokes, I knew there was only one way to shut them up. So I agreed to do it. The problem is, I don't know that much about running, so I decided to get some tips from an expert.
To start with, you need to try and assess your level of fitness. Everybody starts off at a certain level, and if you overestimate how fit you are, then you probably won't finish a marathon. If you've got time in mind, or if you want to finish a marathon in a certain set time, and then that's probably the wrong approach. And as you say, for a beginner, the heart rate, your heart can't lie to you. When you're running, your heart rate, when it starts to go up and starts to go up above, say, if it starts to go into the 150s, for me, say 150s, 160s, then I know that I won't last long at that rate. If I can keep it below maybe 140, I could run probably 100 miles. The marathon's slightly different because most people can run 16, 17 miles, and then they get past that, they get up to the 18 to 20 miles, and that's when the body starts to fall apart. You've heard of the people hitting the wall, so that's what you're trying to avoid. And hitting the wall is just basically your body running out of glycogen, You've got enough glycogen in most people's average body to run 18 to 20 miles if you've trained.
I've joined the gym and I haven't eaten a bacon sandwich in over 2 weeks now. It's not been too hard so far, but there's only really one way to know how far I have to go.
First run done then, how's it go?
Yeah, well, it's pretty rough going. You went about a mile and a half as well. It wasn't easy.
Does it put you off your running?
Not really, it's just made me even more determined. I mean, if I get that unfit and we start running a mile and a half, you know, how am I going to do 26? Got to keep on going, keep on training.
You looking forward to the marathon now?
Looking forward to it, yeah, but it's going to be hard.
You're watching Estuary TV News. A little later, we try to find a home for another Dog of the Week, and Dan Kemp will bring you all the sports news. As we've just seen, Dave Nunn has agreed to run the Hull Marathon. He'll keep us up to date with his training by making a monthly video diary. He joins me now, and as you can see, he has yet to start his fitness regime.
Well, I kind of have. We've just seen it on the film.
Well, a couple of questions just coming out of that film. Firstly, those scales read 16 stone, Dave. Who's been eating all the pies?
I'm not making excuses, it sounds like I am, but those are scales in my bathroom, Em, and they are actually broken. And they go out by like a stone.
Yeah.
So I'm not making excuses.
Out by a stone. I heard that sort of thing before. I like the little Baywatch scene there as well. It was like watching something on a Californian beach.
Well, I am David Hasselhoff, really, aren't I?
Yeah.
I have the same body as him, same looks.
It's very difficult to tell the difference. Hull Marathon, it's now mid-March. When will the race be taking place?
It takes place in September. I believe it's sort of in the middle towards the latter end. I can't remember the exact date, but yeah, it's a bit of a ways off yet.
So you've got a good few months. You've got all summer, all spring and summer in which to practice and to get ready. I've been calling it a race. Is it a race?
Well, there's been some controversy about that because a couple of years ago, I can't remember how long ago, but a couple of years ago they ran it and people were sort of saying, is it the right length? Can it actually be a marathon? But then just last week they had official recognition that it was a marathon and they've got the route planned out. It starts off in the city centre and it goes sort of down and out, round down the sort of outer edge of the city. It actually goes across the Humber Bridge as well, which is rather interesting. It loops back on itself, goes back up and it goes back into the city, and it's full marathon, 26.2 miles.
That's good. That's running across the bridge is going to be interesting if it's a windy day.
I've actually cycled across the bridge before with my family, so it's something that's not really that new. But yeah, it might be quite tough if it's windy, a bit buffeting, but you just got to keep going, haven't you?
Now, the first marathon was run in the year 490 BC when a man called Phidippides ran from the Battle of Marathon back to Athens to tell his countrymen the good news that they'd won. Phidippides then promptly dropped down dead of exhaustion. Why on earth are you doing this?
Well, some of it, to be honest, was peer pressure from my colleagues. I mean, I seem to be the person who does these sort of crazy challenges. I did the sleep easy earlier in the year, and I slept outside. And as soon as the topic of the marathon came up, I know James in the office kept saying, "So when you're doing the marathon, you know, when are we going to do it?" And I just sort of brushed it off. But eventually, it just kind of got annoying and a bit grating. So I was like, "All right, I'll do it." And obviously, you know, I know our own Estuary TV rambler Emma sort of kept going on at me saying I couldn't do it. So I'm kind of just going to prove her wrong, really.
So you're doing it as a pure bloody-minded exercise, in self-esteem.
Yeah, I need a reason to lose a bit of weight. My 15 stone, not 16 as in the film, 15. I need to get a bit trim a bit of that off. So, getting fit to run a marathon with an ultimate aim in mind as well. It gives you more of a motivation. Thinking I'm going to lose this weight, I'm going to go run a marathon, something I've never done before. It gives me a bit of a goal to aim for, really.
A lot of people would be run it in the hope of raising money for various charities. You haven't picked a charity yet.
No, but I am open to suggestions. So if any charities are watching this, then give me an email or whatever.
And we can certainly help with raising lots of sponsorship, and it should be something that should raise some money. Marathons are famous, of course, for people dressing up in ridiculous clothes. Any intentions to be dressed as a rhinoceros, I've often seen, or doing it in a deep-sea diver's suit?
Well, I want to finish it, but I want to finish it in a reasonable time. So I don't want to be dressed as a dragon or in a donkey costume. I don't want it to take like several days. I think several hours will be enough. But maybe, I am I mean, James is supposed to be running it with me, so maybe we could go as a donkey. He can go as the rear end, I'll go as the front, and you know.
What, a sort of a pantomime horse?
Yeah, we could do.
That sounds an absolutely dreadful idea. The Rio Olympics are coming up in 2016. What are your chances?
You know, they're pretty slim, but maybe, you know, maybe I'll overtake Mo Farah or something, and maybe I'll be running in his place. If he's watching this, it could be a challenge, you know.
The marathon, I mean, I'd mentioned that for 490 BC was the first marathon. Nobody ever did it again until the 1896 Athens Olympics, when they reran that course from the actual site of Marathon to Athens. And since then, it's become such a popular sport, hasn't it? All these cities have big marathons.
I mean, you can see with the London Marathon, can't you? You get all sorts of people running from, you know, sort of ordinary people. I think my brother's doing the London Marathon this year, and you've got, you know, celebrities run it as well. Millions of people run it. It's obviously it's something popular, and people run it for charity, but obviously they also do run it for their own personal gain, completing challenges. And
Well, you don't have to have an organised race, do they? If you want to run for 26 miles, all you have to do is go out into the beautiful British countryside and look at an ordnance survey map and work out your routes, and off you go. You don't need to close down a city centre for a day, do you?
it's aiming for a goal. I think sometimes if you're just sort of running to just sort of get fit, it's kind of a bit of a vague aim. You know, what do you categorise getting fit as? You categorise it as losing so much weight or building up so much muscle. So I think if you have an end goal in mind, so like doing a marathon or doing a 5k or a 10k or something like that, it gives you a goal to aim for. I think it's a bit more, a bit more of a motivation for you, I think, to achieve that goal.
And people find it addictive, don't they? I think, is it endomorphins? Something like that anyway. There's some chemicals released in the body by putting yourself through what I would imagine is extreme pain, but other people clearly enjoy. And that it creates some sort of desire. You've got to have more, you've got to have more. You've got to go, there are all sorts of cliches, aren't there? You've got to go through the wall, haven't you? Have you got plans to do more marathons after this?
I have no idea. I know there's a step up for marathons, but I don't think I'm going to do that. But maybe I could do a Tough Mudder or something.
A Tough Mudder?
You don't know what that is,
I
do you?
haven't faintest idea. No.
It's like an extreme marathon. It's like crawling through mud, climbing over bridges, all that sort of stuff.
You haven't thought of just taking the bus?
No, I think that kind of defeats the object of running 26 miles. If I just did like 10 and then took a bus to the end, I don't think people would appreciate it, really.
I think it was all right. I had to do not cross-country running at school, and I just go to the pub. It was much more satisfying that way. Dave, we'll have to talk about your fitness levels in a moment, but for the moment, don't go anywhere. Thanks very much. Firefighters are the heroes who arrive on the scene to save the day in tragic circumstances. But in the heat of the moment, it's easy to forget about what's next. People are often left in shock from their experience and left wondering what the future holds as they watch their worldly possessions go up in smoke. Now, a partnership between the British Red Cross and Humberside Fire and Rescue has brought a new vehicle to the south bank of the Humber, offering a different sort of support to victims of floods and fires. James Dunn has more.
In the event of fire or flood, immediate safety is the greatest concern, but the physical damage caused by such a disaster is only half the problem. And that's why members of the Red Cross are there to help them cope with the emotional impact.
I think these things can be overlooked simply because people's starting point is, how good everybody survived the fire. Everybody's got out safe. But the people that have had to live through that, through waking up and realising there's a fire, and then moving on and getting everybody out of the property, and then everything else that follows on from that, from the fire service arriving, putting out the fire, that's all part of the same trauma, and people need time to be able to think through that. And
this new vehicle has everything from emergency clothes to a comfortable place to sit and even a toilet. All the sorts of things that could be essential if someone had to leave their home at a moment's notice. There's been one at Central Fire Station in Hull for more than 20 years, and it's been so successful that now this new addition will be based at Cromwell Road in Grimsby to decrease response times on the South Bank.
If the unfortunate occurs where they do have an accidental dwelling fire, then we'll attend with our fire engines and obviously deal with the situation. Once we've dealt with it, we've then got to be ready for the next house fire or the next car crash. So what we'll do then is we then hand over to the Red Cross volunteers who have been absolutely superb over the last 20 years and improved the service to provide everybody with this level of support.
Dave Nunn's still with me, and I want to talk a little bit more, Dave, about the training program that you have coming up for this marathon that you're doing. You're not naturally an athlete, let's face it.
I think we can agree on that.
So what are you doing? What's the plan?
Well, obviously we had the clip from Pete in the video. He's obviously a marathon expert. He's sort of given up on normal marathons now and does ultra marathons, which are 100-mile long races.
100-mile runs, really?
Yeah.
And that's really just easy to get a train, isn't it?
Well, he said the quickest one he did was 21 hours, but I'm not going to be doing anything that extreme. Maybe the next challenge.
Okay, but he's training you, is he? He's sort of taking you under.
He's been giving me I've had advice from other people as well, and obviously I spoke to him about what to do, and obviously they've all given me lots of different tips in lots of different areas about marathon running and training.
So will you be running every day and just sort of adding a little bit more to the length of every run, or trying to bring the time down a little bit more for every run?
Yeah, so the key is to start off with, a reasonable goal. If you're going to be, the whole point of a marathon, obviously it's an endurance race, so you want to be able to build it up slowly and obviously build it up so you don't get fatigued easy. So it's easy to start off with a distance that you can easily do. So maybe like, 1.5 miles, 2.5 miles, sort of like that. Do that for a couple of weeks, then increase it, then continuously increase it till you're doing 10 miles and 15 and 20. But he said you don't want to be running full marathons like every single day. You want to be building up. By the time you get to the marathon, you'll fatigue yourself out.
So how many times a week will you be running? Will you be out on the roads?
Probably between, reasonably about 3 to 4 times, more at the weekends, because obviously sometimes working 9 till 5, it's kind of hard to find time to get out in the evening when you get home, you're tired or whatever. So I will be doing some nights, but most, the weekends I'll definitely be out running around. And
what about other training? Apart from, training for running, the best training I imagine is running, but will there be other fitness training, get your heart rate under control, your breathing sorted out?
Yeah, so that's keeping, obviously, aerobic training is quite, because obviously you want to be able to regulate your body as you're running so you don't get too tired, you don't get too exhausted. Another one that I learned about is training, sort of getting used to glycogen levels in your bloodstream. So obviously, glycogen is the sugar that drives people to sort of run, and Pete said to me that people will run about 17 to 18 miles in a marathon and they'll run out of glycogen and they'll just sort of, collapse before the finish line. So he said the main thing to do is on these runs is to not push myself to go too fast, but to sort of run slowly. And he said in the actual marathon, you've got to start off running slower and then pick your speed up towards the end. So obviously you don't use as much glycogen, you've actually got something left to push you over the line. He says that's a key thing that people forget.
Well, you mentioned sugar, and glycogen is one of the body's ways of storing sugar, isn't it? One of the healthier ways as opposed to fat. And you're going to have to control your diet, aren't you? I'm not saying anything rude about you, Dave, but you're a fine figure of a fellow, but you're going to have to control your diet in some way as well.
Yeah, so obviously, he said one of the things you've got to do is after you've gone for a run is obviously to eat some protein, because obviously, once I do get rid of the fat, if you're running and the body needs to find fuel, it will just start attacking your muscles, eating your muscles. That builds up lactic acid, which of course just stops you from running. So so it's important that's why the glycogen level is so important, because you've got to make sure you manage it enough that you don't get a build up of lactic acid, and that's what does cause people to collapse at the finish line. There are ways you can boost it artificially. I've heard something about gels, which you can. Apparently, it's better to train with gels because apparently, people have gone to do a marathon with these gels and they've eaten them for the first time, and apparently they can be quite rough on your stomach. So yeah, some bad things have happened to those people.
Okay, well, I hope none of that happens to you. It's not just a question of building up the protein with bacon sandwiches every morning.
No.
Okay, you'll need specialist equipment as well, of course. You can't just put on a pair of sandals or a pair of plimsolls and run 26 miles.
Yeah, so one thing I've had lots of suggestions about is shoes with what they call rubber laces. So obviously as you're running, your feet will swell up and they'll get bigger. And if you're wearing shoes like sort of maybe the shoes I'm wearing today, you won't be able to your feet won't be able to expand after a certain point, and it'll become painful. So what these rubber laces do is they're normal shoelaces with little knots in them. And as you're running along and your feet expand, the knots sort of come out a bit. And they'll never come loose after you tie them. The knots will come out and it will ease the pressure on your feet. So obviously you can stand for longer and you can run for longer.
In that original marathon, Pheidippides was telling his countrymen that their city was safe from Persian invasion. Hull is not under threat of Persian invasion. Just how can people get in contact with you if they want to raise their interest in charities and let you help them raise money?
Well, they can get in touch with me on Twitter or through my email, daven@estuary.tv.
Absolutely excellent. Dave, thank you very much for coming in. Good luck with that, and we'll be following that story with tremendous interest.
Thank you.
Now, here's the sport with Dan Kemp.
Hull City manager Steve Bruce has avoided any further punishment over his altercation with Gus Poyet on Tuesday night. The pair clashed on the touchline during City and Sunderland's 1-1 Premier League draw, which saw Poyet sent to the stands. The Black Cats manager has been charged with improper conduct and has until Monday evening to respond to the charge. Hull FC are in action tonight in the Super League. The Black and Whites host the Leeds Rhinos at the KC Stadium, kicking off at 8 p.m, and are expected to recall club captain Gareth Ellis into the side after injury. FC won on the opening day of the season but narrowly missed out in their previous 2 encounters. 87% of respondents to Grimsby Town's stadium relocation survey believe the proposed Peaks Parkway site should be allocated in the council's new local plan. The club will again host a consultation event over their proposed new stadium. Mariners directors John Fenty and Philip Day will be on hand to field questions, and a number of first-team squad members will also be on hand from 11 a.m. in the Mariners Trust Bar this Sunday. It's now 3 defeats in 4 for the Hull Stingrays, having been edged out last night by the Nottingham Panthers. Brendan Jamieson had given the Rays the lead early on, but the side ended up 4-1 down before Will Frederick and Jordan Knox goals pushed the Panthers close. This weekend sees Hull play in Fife and Dundee. And finally, Cleethorpes Town picked up a 1-0 away win at Albion Sports last night in the Northern Counties East Premier League. Brodie Robertson with the goal. Elsewhere, Barton Town Old Boys lost 3-2 at Staveley Miners Welfare, whilst the league down, there were wins for Winterton Rangers and Bottisford beat Louth, and Hall Road Rangers lost at Eccles Hill. And that's all for the sport.
Just time now to go over to Sangreet, where another dog of the week is hoping to find a new home.
184, Rio, a black Labrador, lovely natured dog, but does come with a slight abnormality to his skull. He's got a bit of a misshaped skull, which I would think maybe putting a lot of people off him, but he is actually a lovely, nice dog, so he'll make a nice home for somebody.
Beautiful. That's all we have time for today, but I will just mention that Dean Windus's Man of the Match trophy from Hull City's playoff final win in 2008 is up for auction in a couple of months, raising money for heart health. More on that in tomorrow's news. If you have a story for us, then please go to Facebook or Twitter pages, details on the screen, email news@estuary.tv or phone Grimsby 31 5553. Until tomorrow, good evening.
Hello and welcome to Estuary TV's weather. Friday will be a windy day with a good deal of cloud. The best of any brightness will be in the east, with the west seeing a little light rain. Maximum temperature 11 degrees. Saturday's looking windy, mild and largely dry with some sunshine.